Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we've got a great guest join us, joined by Brannon Santos, the founder and CEO of Peel. Brannon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Oliver. Thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure to have you on. It's a pleasure to meet you. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do with Peel?
Sure thing. Again, Brannon Santos. I have been in B2B tech, mainly enterprise, for the last almost 15 years now. Kind of worked my way up from SDR to CRO before making the leap to being a founder CEO. I think one sort of angle or interesting thing about me or my kinship to B2B sales is I fell in love with the science of selling. Um, there's a sort of an equation that I came to realize mattered, and it starts with great discovery and championing a deal and quarterbacking it and involving other people to add value and speed to deals. And I just fell in love with that. And that's been a through line in my career. And that's something that we've carried over into Peel. Um, Peel is an agent based voice conversation where you can come to Peel and create agents for multiple different use cases throughout the customer lifecycle. Again, being a fan of the science of selling, I love winning by design and the way they visualize the customer lifecycle via a bow tie. So if you can imagine that bow tie within each of those segments, there's a lot of conversations that happen today that are, 30 to 60-minute Zoom calls that are not buyer centric. Most buyers would love an asynchronous way of speaking to a website and figuring out if a product is good for them. Now, take that same expression of that idea, stretch it across the customer life cycle, whether you're a 10-year customer of a company or a prospect that hasn't become a customer yet. There's so many ways to interact with that company where you don't really want to talk to a salesperson. That's the world that we're trying to create. And we're having a lot of fun doing it and have a few happy customers so far.
Yeah, very cool. I like what you guys are doing. How long ago did you guys start this company?
Um, Back in September, we raised our pre-seed in earnest. We kind of started then. The idea was spawned maybe even 12 months prior to that. So it's been about 18 months in the working. But in terms of having a sellable product, maybe the last 6 months.
Nice, very cool, very cool. And making that jump from CRO to founder CEO, what sort of kind of new responsibilities have you taken on? What sort of new skills have you had to learn?
Oh man. So I had this idea that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a founder at some point, and I thought the smart way to do it was go get some experience. And it is, don't get me wrong, but my last 15 years of being a sales leader hasn't set me up from the 0 to 1 mission that we're on right now. So if there's, some advice or an insight that I can share with your guests, uh, I would, uh, have a bias for action and just get going. Don't feel like you need to go spend 10 years in a job before you can go be an owner in that job. What you're going to learn the first year in ownership is a skill set that you didn't learn in the last 10 years. So I'm learning all new things. I do think the prior experience that I have will kick in at some point when we're past the 0 to 1 phase, right? But until then, these are all new skill sets. I wear a marketing hat, I wear a product owner hat, of course, a sales hat, a CSM hat, kind of doing it all until we can hire some additional founders and team members to help us run this company.
Yeah, nice. You got to become a jack of all trades. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that the skills that you've stacked up over your career, that compounding effect will take place. But you mentioned it earlier, Brandon, is one of the biggest things you learned is kind of the art of the discovery call. Would you mind walking us through that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a first impression, right? It's your opportunity to show who you are and being a curious professional. But it's also where the deal begins and dies if you don't do it correctly. That first opportunity to extract information that's going to be helpful, not only if that person becomes a customer, but with the sales campaign that you're about to run, it's really important. Attention spans go elsewhere. The prospect's attention and interest and conviction and willing to buy into the process won't get higher past that first call.
Mm.
It might get a little bit higher, and you might get more committee members of the buying team involved if you do a good job, but they've come ready to learn what value your product can add to their business. It's your opportunity to capture the information necessary to convince them and others that value will be achieved with your product. It's just it's a real sweet spot in the sales cycle. It's the beginning, and if done correctly, it can lead to a high conversion rate. If done incorrectly, it almost always ends in a closed lost opportunity.
Hmm. First impressions and relationships, that's where they're made.
I think so. I think so. And obviously, where Peel comes into the equation and is increasing the value for both parties now is discovery at an organization like, for example, us. There's 5 questions that are pretty critical to understanding if you're a good fit for us. And if you positively answer those 5 questions, the chances of me giving you a demonstration that blows your socks off is really high, right? Um, so you can discovery can be programmatic, and this goes back to my earlier point of like science of selling, and there's an equation to this. If you understand your ICP and those discovery questions that really net down at whether there's a fit there or not, Peel's an awesome opportunity to educate that agent and then send it out to do pre-discovery with your prospects. It's a
Hmm.
boon for them because they don't have to get on a call with an SDR or a salesperson and waste 30 minutes of their day. They can answer these questions really rapidly. That information can be summarized for that account executive. If there is a strong fit, that account executive's teed up from minute one. They could be showing value versus, repeating themselves, asking questions that were already answered on a form elsewhere, just leading to the bad buying experience that everybody's gone through in the last 20 years or thereabouts. So that's one of the ways that we're hacking this and making it benefit to both parties.
Mm. Nice. And it's definitely sounds like a unique approach. But Brandon, over the past, I know you've been in the space for 18 or so months. Pulling it back a few years now, lots of AI companies are popping up. How are you guys going about breaking through the noise, getting kind of your foot in the competitive landscape?
I would be lying if I said that we figured it out, right? Like it's a daily process of trying to get somebody's attention, trying to show alignment towards the problem, and fit of a solution. It's a beast. Like one of the best things that I saw happening with this AI boom at the application layer was ex operators could go build products that solve the problems that they encountered throughout their career. I'm a byproduct of this, right? Like that's where I got this idea was playing with ChatGPT when it was first released and wondering, could I get the AI to do a 180? And instead of me asking it questions, it asked me questions. And could I programmatically set that up with my CRM? So we were capturing information uh, sort of on a trigger based motion. And could we equip it with gift cards so there's a value add for the participant? Um, because the value add for us is a cost reduction. We don't have sales reps on those calls. So it was me being entrepreneurial, having problems, seeing how AI could solve those problems. Well, I'm not alone, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
thousands of me's out there that all built products to solve their problems. And there's this massive sort of onslaught of new applications out there, which is great for the ecosystem. It's great for established businesses. I think there's arbitrages to be ran right now where they can find a tool that works incredibly well in their niche and they can increase revenues or whatever they're trying to achieve really rapidly before their competitors catch on and catch word of these tools. So I think there's a little bit of that happening. There'll be a period of consolidation at some point, but we're not in it right now or yet. And there's a lot of tools, and it's really hard to break through the noise. I shared with you before we started the podcast. We're growing mainly through word of mouth and network connections. But just now we're trying to do some outbound programs as well as hire for some inbound and brand building campaigns that we want to begin running. We think these things will help. But you have to build an awesome product. You have to have conviction, and you have to have a community. I'm working on sort of all three. I think we have an amazing product that I kind of jokingly say nobody knows about, right? Only a few people know about. And it's our mission, or our axe to bear, to go get people to pay attention to this and
Hmm.
see how it can solve some problems of theirs. And wish us luck. Uh, it's a journey and or a marathon, right? It's not something that we're going to achieve tomorrow. It's something that we have to wake up every day and try and achieve.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. No, and Brandon, I can tell how passionate you are about building Peel. Being the CEO, how do you go about building that kind of passionate culture within your own company as you're building it out?
I don't know what I did right there, but I did something right there. I've got an amazing co-founder that's even more passionate, comes in every day enthusiastic about what we're building and what we're doing and who we're helping. I found a brilliant CTO that that I don't think I deserved at the time, but got him regardless, and we've been building together for quite a while now. And beyond that, we've attracted friends of theirs that they've worked with in past projects, and uh, investors have introduced us to other people that can help. And we've made this incredible, diverse, fairly global team. We've got resources in South America and Europe, as well as here in the States. And I feel incredibly blessed to have found this team to work on this mission with us. I don't know what I did exactly correct, and I wish I could document those things and share it with your audience. But I think it has to do with what you said, sort of like having conviction, having enthusiasm, carrying that forward into every conversation and every activity that you do for the business. That adds up, and people want to work with other enthusiastic people, right? Like there's a vibe, there's an energy there, and if you're putting that out into the world every day, I think you get some good stuff back.
No doubt, no doubt. And you say you aren't sure what you did, but maybe that's one of the things we discussed earlier is that all those skills you stacked over your career aren't exactly what skill it is, but it's the accumulation of them that makes a difference.
I think that's totally fair to say. Yeah.
Hmm. And I'm not sure the exact data on it, but I know one thing I like to think of, especially as somebody that's growing their own businesses, bamboo will grow underground for 3 to 5 years. You don't see it at all, but then once it gets above the ground, it grows the 30 feet in 3 days or whatever it is.
Oh, I
But
love that.
it's like that. It's like you stack all these skills without even realizing it. And once it breaks through the surface, they take off. So,
I love that. I think I just saw Clay posted something about a round that Sequoia is leading. They put a valuation of like 1.5 on the business billion, and they're using 20 million of the new round to buy back employee stock at that valuation. And that company, if I have my story correct, and it could be, one of other companies, but operated for many years, maybe even 5 to 7, without real revenue. And then seemingly overnight, everybody has heard about Clay and is using Clay. So,
mhm,
aligned to your analogy of they were growing underground for quite a while. And then boom, right, 30 feet. And this amazing outcome for the early team members already pre-exit, right? So
mhm.
we'd love to have a similar story here at Peel.
Yeah, awesome. No, and it sounds like you guys are building the right foundation to do so. But in the general landscape, obviously, AI agents have had a big influx across the space. How is that going to impact the sales landscape in general? Where do you see that going? Obviously, without your crystal ball, but if you could place a little prediction on it, where do you think it's going to go?
I think it's going to take longer than a lot of people are anticipating. If you're in this space and you're paying attention to the mentions on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff like that, um, the claim last year was 2025 is the era or year for agents, and I do think it is. Like it's when we're all getting started and we're all integrating them into our businesses. Um, But in terms of a world where agents are talking to other agents or agents are included throughout every motion of the sales cycle, I think that's going to take a little while. We're obviously on that journey ourselves. We're doing it in a non-invasive opt-in way. So there's tools out there. AI SDRs are sort of easy to pick on, and they are getting picked on. And I think rightfully so. Like, who wants an agent cold calling you or cold emailing you?
Mhm.
Nobody wants that. Nobody asked for that. Could it be built? Obviously, right? And it was. And we're seeing sort of the churn uh, come as a result. Whereas we've always had the opinion that this should be an invite to share feedback, and we heavily influence our customers to provide incentives. So there's a value for that person coming in. Because of the cost reduction I mentioned for the business, they can afford to do, add a 25, 50, $100 gift card to these things. So I think there's an ethical way of doing this. I think we're going to butt into walls throughout, and eventually we will get to this point where the buyer or the customer has the option. Do I want to talk to a human about whatever this thing is that I'm trying to do? Or do I want to talk to an agent? And as these agents evolve and get better and their tool calling, their ability to interact with other platforms via MCPs or other tool calling functionalities, they become so robust and consistent in their performance, more and more people are going to walk through that door. So long-winded answer to say it's going to be up to the end user, the buyer in our use cases, as they demand businesses provide this as an option. That's when we'll see agents sort of included in every product or business out there.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I like the vision. And what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge to make that happen? Is it consumer adoption? Is it consumer awareness? What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge?
Um, there's not. It's a time thing. So there's an aging out that's happening, right? I think it's by 2030, 97% of decision makers are going to be either Gen Z or millennials. Um, so that so what that's saying, without saying it, is like there's an older era of operators that are currently holding decision making seats that are a little bit more apprehensive to utilize agents within their business. So as they age out and new decision makers come in that have followed the trend and the capability growth of AI, they won't be apprehensive. So it'll be easier to consume there. Similarly on the buying side, right? As buyers, younger generations evolve,
Hmm.
I think more and more people are less desiring human to human conversations if they don't have to. Um, the 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 technology is evolving incredibly quickly. Our ability to build a comprehensive, knowledgeable agent today with Peel can be done literally in like 3 minutes. I just did a demo for somebody and built an account management agent that's capable of having sort of a pulse health check conversation that also is hunting for signals for upsell or cross sell opportunities within that conversation. Um, it's capable of integrating with HubSpot and doing all these other
Hmm.
things, right? Uh, we can do that. We can put those together and add new tools to that overnight with our engineering team. So the technology, that's not going to be the hindrance. It's really the adoption
Hmm.
and getting comfortable with this as a new way of doing business.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the internet in the early 2000s. People were a bit slow to adopt, but now it's
Yeah, or
look at us.
mobile, yeah,
Yeah.
or cloud computing, right? There, how much have we talked about uh digital transformation? Like I don't know how that's still a term being talked about, but it is. So
Hmm.
there's always early adopters and laggers, and I just think that this one, the technology is going to be so amazing that it's going to pull people in, but there's going to be resistance, and I think that's the only thing stopping this from an overnight shift.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And there's also the, we'll call it a bubble that we're in, that we play in, of just AI is all we hear about. Whereas if you remove yourself from kind of the tech space
Oh,
bubble, some people aren't as up to date. They're not as educated. They're not as aware of what's going on behind the scenes. So,
yeah, my mom would know nothing about this if I wasn't involved in this business,
right,
right? There's a
right.
whole world. There's 6, 8 billion people. I don't know how many on Earth, but a large, large, large percentage, the majority of them still haven't played with ChatGPT or tools like it, right?
Mhm. Right. And you'll have to send this to your mom after we finish wrapping up, edit up. She can watch. So, hi, Mama Brandon. Quick shout out. Quick shout out. But No, Brandon, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate everything you've shared so far. But what's the mission? What's the vision for Peel at the moment?
Just to make it easier for the buyer. We're working on a new product. I don't want to share too much because again, in the age of AI, like you used to be able to build in public and vocalize products before you built them. Man, can you build some amazing products with not a lot of skills these days. But the ability to make sort of any digital asset voice enabled and agent enabled, right? Nobody wants to be sitting on a webinar and listening to the whole thing. If they could have an agent sort of take them through what that webinar was about and contextualize it to their situation, and have a conversation with assets and websites and webinars and all these different sort of marketing contents, I think that's where it gets really interesting to personalize everything. So that's sort of the stated mission is one to make it buyer centric. We're building for our customer's customer, and if we make them happy, we make our customer happy. Sort of at the end of the day, that's our biggest mission. But we just want to make it easy and frictionless for brands to engage with their audience through voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a strong mission, and we've discussed you've built a strong foundation to build upon. So keep it rolling, keep it rolling. But Brandon, I got one last question for you. You come from a background in B2B sales. What's kind of one piece of advice you'd give an early salesman or somebody that's
Uh,
still learning the craft? What would you give them?
apart from just like learning how to do discovery really well, and really the hack there is just if you're a naturally curious person, good, you're set up for success. If you're not a naturally curious person, you're maybe in the wrong profession. Slash, you got to find what's interesting about your product and the pains that your stated customer are having. Beyond that, think of yourself as a quarterback. Think of yourself as not the person that needs to make the deal happen, but the person that orchestrates the two teams in making the deal happen. So some of the biggest wins that I've shared that success with internal team members, bringing in executives into the conversation, getting their fingerprints on the deal, so to speak. I think of that as the way that I've been, a repeat President's Club sort of winner is I went from good discovery calls to saying, I need to connect you with this person. And I also want to bring this person into the mix from an executive peership. Let's combine these people and just orchestrating that sales campaign and acting like the quarterback served me well in my career.
Mm-hmm. Just lead with value at all times. Essentially, what it boils down to.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. And Brandon, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Really appreciate you sharing your insights. I'll be sure to tag your LinkedIn and Peel's website down in the description. But where else can people find you if there's anywhere else?
That's the best way on LinkedIn. Find me there, and interact with getpeel.ai. We've got a new vibe talking sort of website that allows you to build these agents and test them out on yourself. And then if you want to share them with others, with colleagues, you can create a free account. That's the best way to get involved with Peel and test it out. And I'd love to hear your feedback if you do so.
Mm, very cool. Very cool. And for everybody listening, like I said, I'll tag both of those down in the description. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And Brandon, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Oliver. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.